The Swedish government fines ferry officers for causing a grounding and subsequent oil spill. This happened in October of 2023, and it was published by the Maritime Exclusive. Swedish prosecutors announced fines for the captain and third officer of the ferry Marco Polo, claiming that the two officers acted recklessly navigating the ferry, which contributed to its grounding and an ongoing environmental cleanup. This came as the Swedish Coast Guard is calling up additional resources to help with the cleanup. The ferry, which is operated by TT Lines of Germany, had departed Trelleborg, Sweden on October the 21st, sailing for Kalasand, when it reported grounding on Sunday, October the 22nd. The Swedish Coast Guard assisted in the evacuation of 41 passengers and 10 of the 30 crew on board. During the subsequent investigation, led by the Coast Guard along with the public prosecutor, they reconstructed the events leading up to the grounding and confirmed earlier reports that the ship touched ground, sustaining damage, and was likely leaking, but continued under its own power before grounding a second time. The hull of the vessel was damaged, causing it to take on water. The Coast Guard is reporting that 14 cubic meters of oil waste has been recovered from the sea and 9 cubic meters from the shoreline. Up to approximately 3 miles of the coast has been fouled by oil. According to the prosecutors, the third mate was in command of the ferry before the first event. Despite reduced visibility, including fog in the area and nightmare darkness, he was proceeding only using the vessel's electronic chart. The Coast Guard believes the electronic position system malfunctioned, while the prosecutor charged him with neglect for failing to use other navigational aids such as radar or a lookout. After the first grounding, the master of the ferry took command, and he too continued to rely on the electronic chart. The ship went aground during the second grounding, which was reported at 6:25 a.m. The two officers were each fined, with one fined approximately $3,600 and the other being approximately $1,500. The prosecutor highlighted to reporters that the Swedish law provides mild penalties for neglect, which these crimes were to be judged by, versus harder penalties for intentional acts. However, the Coast Guard still can impose a water pollution fee, and an additional investigation is underway regarding the seaworthiness of the vessel based on the malfunctions. The Coast Guard highlights that it is responsible for the management of oil pollution in the water and that it has strung a boom around the ferry. Overflights show that the slick has dissipated, but they believe oil continues to leak from the ferry and is under the surface. They positioned cleanup crews near the shore trying to prevent the oil from washing up, and this week are assessing 24 trainees to join in the cleanup efforts. In addition, they will be calling up 30 people from the Home Guard in the coming days ahead to join in the effort. Additional protective equipment is also being sent to the local base, as well as tools such as lighting. The concern is that they estimate up to 300 cubic meters of oil remain on board the grounded ship. The longer the Marco Polo remains grounded, the Coast Guard highlights the dangers increase. They also reported that the cleanup efforts are being hampered by bad weather. TT Lines is responsible for presenting a salvage plan that will be approved by both the Swedish Transportation Agency and the Coast Guard. The plan is still being prepared, but the Coast Guard reports the vessel's owners are adding salvage resources to the area. They have reportedly positioned 2 tugs nearby, able to respond if required. The Marco Polo remains grounded. And now an update 6 days later on November the 2nd. With minimal additional environmental impact, the stranded ferry Marco Polo was successfully refloated. The salvage operation is anticipated to be finished, but the oil cleaning is anticipated to take much longer. The refloating was achieved by pressurizing the compartments near the breach in the hull. After about 45 minutes, the report said the vessel was afloat and free of the area. The Marco Polo was moved to a prearranged location about 1 nautical mile to the southeast using 2 tugs. The ferry's owner, TT Line, has reported that the ship has dropped anchor at the new site. The exact amount of oil released has yet to be determined, but it is known that the damaged fuel tank contained 160 cubic meters of oil prior to the accident. The salvage operation has been closely supervised by the Swedish Coast Guard and the Swedish Transportation Agency. Now, in June of 2024, this vessel is still being used. It is underway as I speak. So the vessel was repaired and put back into service. How a ship can run aground twice in the same day is pretty amazing. The fact that they only relied on one form of navigation when they couldn't see anything. It was pitch black, dark, and foggy, and they relied on nothing except the electronic position system. Why have a radar on a ship if you're not going to look at it, if you're not going to use it? This just seems reckless, especially considering this is a ferry. This could have been a lot worse, that is for sure. Only 41 passengers on board, which doesn't seem much for a ferry of this size, but they probably were carrying a lot of cars and stuff, who knows. 30 crew and only 41 passengers seems a little strange, but everyone was evacuated safely. The ship didn't sink, which is a miracle considering they ripped a hole in the side of her, but a huge oil spill, which could have been a lot worse. The salvage company got things under control pretty quick and got her refloated. The big job, obviously, is the cleanup of the oil, and that takes a long time to do, that's for sure. But this could have been a lot worse. Now I think the captain and his third officer probably looking for a new job.